The impact shattered the silence of the forest night. Kira's vision flickered as emergency protocols failed one by one. Blood deep purple against her iridescent blue skin seeped from the wound in her side. The Tyrellian mercenary's blade had struck true before she'd managed to eliminate him. A lucky strike that would cost her life if she couldn't stabilize soon. Navigation offline, life support critical, atmospheric breach imminent. Her ship's AI delivered the death sentence in its characteristically flat tone. Through the cracked viewport, an unfamiliar blue and green planet loomed, uninhabited frontier territory, or so she'd thought. Intelligence had obviously been flawed. Vrexian Imperial records incomplete. Designation Sol 3, native species detected. Kira tried to access the emergency beacon, but her strength was fading. The poison that made her deadly to others now worked against her, accelerating blood loss as her body's natural defenses attacked the wound. The ultimate irony, the Empire's perfect assassin, the untouchable death, dying alone in uncharted space. She'd killed 27 targets across 17 systems, never failed a mission, never left evidence. Touch meant death, a neurotoxin so potent it could kill most sentient species within seconds of skin contact. The ship screamed through atmosphere, systems failing faster than the onboard AI could report them. Kira's last conscious thought before impact was of relief. At least in death, she might finally know touch without causing destruction. Marcus Fletcher logged the unusual meteorological readings with practiced precision. Something had disrupted the upper atmosphere over his research station, too localized for natural phenomena. The forest around his cabin had gone eerily silent, the wildlife sensing what his instruments confirmed. Definitely not a meteor, he muttered, grabbing his field pack and emergency medical kit. 6 months alone in this remote outpost researching ecosystem adaptation had trained him to expect the unexpected, but nothing in his scientific background had prepared him for what he found at the impact site. The craft was unlike anything human engineering could produce, sleek, biomechanical, and actively repairing itself despite catastrophic damage. More shocking was its occupant, a humanoid figure with luminescent blue skin marked with intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with their own light. Marcus's scientific curiosity overcame his caution. The being appeared female, though clearly not human and critically injured. Purple fluid leaked from a wound in her side. "Hello, can you understand me?" he called, approaching slowly. No responses. Medical training kicked in. Injured, unconscious, bleeding out, regardless of species, these were universal emergency indicators. Without conscious thought, Marcus reached down and lifted the alien from the damaged craft. Her skin felt cool and strange against his hands, almost electric, but his focus remained on getting her to safety. The mile back to his cabin was a blur of exertion. He laid her on his bed and began assessing her injuries with the detached precision of a field medic. The wound was deep, the purple blood thinning and spreading in an alarming pattern. Working quickly, he cleaned and dressed the injury, using techniques developed for puncture wounds. Hours passed as Marcus monitored her vital signs, using his research equipment in ways its manufacturers never intended. Her physiology was fascinatingly alien, dual-chambered heart, respiratory system unlike anything in Earth's evolutionary tree, and skin that seemed to possess properties both organic and crystalline. Dawn broke through the cabin windows when her eyes finally opened, vertical pupils expanding rapidly in the light, their color shifting from amber to deep violet. "You're alive," Marcus said, relief evident in his voice. "I wasn't sure if." "You touched me," she interrupted, her voice melodic but sharp with what seemed like disbelief or horror. "You touched my skin directly." Marcus nodded, confused by her intensity. "Yes, I had to carry you from the crash site. You were dying." "That's impossible." She tried to sit up, wincing in pain. "You should be dead." "I'm perfectly fine," Marcus replied, offering water which she regarded with suspicion. "I'm Marcus Fletcher. Can you understand me? Do you have a name?" Her eyes narrowed, studying him with new intensity. "My designation is Kira, Vrexian Imperial Executor." She paused, looking at his hands with a mixture of fear and wonder. "And by all laws of biology, your touch should have killed you instantly." "So I'm supposed to be dead." Marcus sat across from Kira, maintaining a respectful distance that seemed to ease her agitation. 3 days had passed since he'd found her, and though her wound was healing with remarkable speed, her wariness remained constant. "Every living being that has ever touched my skin has died within seconds," Kira explained, examining her blue-hued hand as if seeing it for the first time. "I was bioengineered to be the ultimate infiltration weapon. The toxin is part of me, it seeps through my dermal layer continuously." "Yet here I am," Marcus said, unable to hide his fascination. As a biologist, the implications were staggering. Perhaps Earth's evolutionary path created some immunity. Impossible, the neurotoxin was designed to be universal. It targets fundamental neurological pathways present in all advanced life forms. She looked at him with those unsettling violet eyes. What are you? Marcus laughed, the sound echoing through his small cabin. Just a human, ordinary in every way, except apparently to you. Something shifted in Kira's expression, a softening he hadn't witnessed before. You saved me despite the risk. Why? The question caught him off guard. You needed help, that's reason enough. Silence stretched between them, filled with the sounds of the forest outside, a world so different from hers. Finally, Kira spoke, her voice barely audible. In 27 standard cycles, no one has ever touched me without deadly consequence, not even my own kind. Marcus's heart ached at the isolation her words revealed. That sounds incredibly lonely. Loneliness is irrelevant to my function, she replied, but her eyes betrayed the practiced response. Is that what you are, just a function? He leaned forward, careful not to invade her space. Because what I found was a person, injured, fighting to survive. Kira stood abruptly, moving to the window with fluid grace that belied her recent injury. Beyond the glass, Earth's wilderness stretched endlessly, trees swaying in patterns unfamiliar to her, clouds gathering in formations she had no words for. I'm a Vrexian Imperial Executor. My directive is absolute: eliminate all witnesses to Vrexian operations in unauthorized territories. Her shoulders tensed. That includes you. Are you going to kill me then? Marcus asked calmly, though his heart raced. She turned, studying him with an intensity that made his skin prickle. It would be simple, efficient. Her hand moved to the concealed blade at her hip, then stopped. But you touched me and lived, that changes everything. Marcus stood slowly. How so? The Empire creates us to be untouchable. Our isolation ensures loyalty, ensures we have nothing to lose. Her voice trembled slightly. But you've shown me that perhaps I'm not condemned to isolation. It's unsettling. Would you like to try again? Marcus held out his hand, palm up, an invitation, not a demand. Kira stared at the offered hand as though it might burn her. You don't understand what you're offering. I'm offering a choice. Something tells me those are rare in your world. Minutes passed as Kira regarded his outstretched hand. Finally, with movements so cautious they barely disturbed the air, she extended her slender blue fingers toward his. The first touch was hesitant, a whisper of contact that sent a visible shudder through her frame. When nothing catastrophic happened, she pressed her palm fully against his. Her skin felt cool and faintly electric, with a subtle vibration that reminded Marcus of purring cats. Warm, she whispered, wonder filling her voice. You're so warm. The moment shattered as Kira suddenly stiffened, her head turning toward the window. They're coming. Who? Recovery team. The Empire tracks all executors, especially those who fail to report. Her expression hardened into something cold and professional. I've put you in danger by remaining here. Marcus moved to the window, seeing nothing but darkening forest. How long? 2 days, perhaps 3. Their hunter ships are faster than mine. She retrieved her partially repaired suit from where it hung near the heating unit. I must leave immediately. And go where your ship is destroyed. It doesn't matter, I must draw them away from you. Kira's eyes met his, something unfamiliar flickering in their depths. You have shown me kindness, I will not repay it with your execution. Marcus considered his options, knowing they were few. His isolated research station had been chosen specifically for its remoteness. The nearest town was nearly 100 miles away. We'll leave together, he decided. I know these forests better than anyone. If your people are tracking you, they'll find you wherever you go. At least with me, you'll have a guide. You would protect me, disbelief colored her voice, knowing what I am. Marcus thought of his quiet life before the crash, the careful observations, the meticulous records, the profound solitude. Then he remembered the feel of her hand against his, the first touch she'd ever known that didn't end in death. Maybe we're protecting each other, he said simply. Kira's expression shifted through emotions Marcus couldn't name before settling into guarded acceptance. Very well, but you should know that what awaits us won't just be capture. The Empire doesn't allow anomalies to exist, especially ones that threaten their control over weapons like me. Marcus nodded, already gathering essential supplies. Then we'd better make sure they don't find us. He paused, looking up from his backpack. And Kira, you're not a weapon to me. For the first time since he'd found her, something like a smile ghosted across her face. Beautiful, dangerous, and utterly human in its vulnerability. Down. Kira's whisper cut through the pre-dawn silence as she pulled Marcus into the hollow beneath a fallen redwood. Seconds later, the low hum of Rexian scanning technology pulsed overhead. a sound imperceptible to human ears but one that Kira felt in her bones. They'd been on the run for 4 days, pushing deeper into the wilderness with each passing hour. Marcus's knowledge of the terrain had proven invaluable, leading them through ravines and dense underbrush that masked their heat signatures. But the Vrexian hunters were nothing if not persistent. "They're using third-generation biomarker sensors," Kira murmured against Marcus's ear, her breath warm on his skin. "They're tracking the specific radiation signature my toxin emits." Marcus nodded, acutely aware of their proximity. In the cramped space beneath the log, Kira's body pressed against his, no longer fearful of the contact but seeming to draw comfort from it. He'd noticed the changes in her over their days together, how she no longer flinched when their hands brushed, how she'd begun to seek out small touches as if making up for a lifetime of deprivation. "There's a series of caves about 2 miles west," he whispered back. "The mineral content in the rock might interfere with their sensors." Kira's violet eyes reflected what little light filtered through their hiding place. "It's worth trying. We move when their patrol circles back." The wait stretched into hours, time marked only by their shared breaths and the occasional distant scanner. Marcus used the moment to study Kira's face. The intricate patterns beneath her blue skin that seemed to pulse with emotion, the vertical pupils that widened in darkness, the subtle curve of her lips that had begun to smile more frequently in his presence. "Why are you looking at me like that?" she asked, voice barely audible. "I'm wondering who you might have been," Marcus replied honestly, "if they hadn't made you into a weapon." Something vulnerable flickered across her features. "I've never thought about it. We're created for purpose, not possibility." "Then now I find myself thinking of impossible things." Her fingers found his in the darkness, interlacing with a deliberate slowness that made his pulse quicken. "Things like choice, freedom, this." The scanner's hum faded into the distance. With practiced silence, they emerged from hiding and continued their westward trek. The forest grew denser, the terrain steeper. Twice they had to double back to avoid Vrexian ground patrols, sleek figures in adaptive camouflage that Kira identified by subtle movements most humans would miss. By nightfall, they reached the cave system, a network of limestone tunnels carved by ancient water. The entrance was narrow, requiring them to squeeze through sideways. Inside, the air was cool and damp, heavy with mineral scents. "You were right," Kira observed, checking a device on her wrist. "The ferrous content in these rocks disrupts their scanning frequencies. We're effectively invisible here." For the first time in days, tension visibly left her body. She sank down against the cave wall, exhaustion finally claiming its due. Marcus built a small, smokeless fire with practiced efficiency, its glow casting dancing shadows across the cavern walls. "You should rest," he said, offering her a portion of their dwindling rations. "I'll take first watch." Kira shook her head. "Vrexians require minimal sleep compared to humans. You're exhausted." In the firelight, her concern was plainly visible. "You've pushed yourself beyond reasonable limits for my sake." "That's what people do for those they care about," Marcus replied without thinking. Silence fell between them, not the comfortable quiet they'd grown accustomed to, but something charged with unspoken questions. "Is that what this is?" Kira finally asked, caring. Marcus met her gaze across the small fire. "I think it might be more than that." The confession hung in the air between them. Kira moved then, graceful even in her fatigue, coming to sit beside him. With deliberate care, she reached up to touch his face, fingers tracing the contours of his cheek, his jaw, his lips. "In my world, this would be execution," she whispered, "but with you it feels like rebirth." Marcus covered her hand with his own, turning his face to press his lips against her palm. The gesture drew a soft gasp from her, a sound of wonder and discovery. "No one has ever," she began, voice faltering. "I know," he gently pulled her closer. "Is this okay?" Her answer was to lean forward, hesitantly pressing her lips to his. The kiss was tentative at first, exploration rather than passion, but quickly deepened as lifetimes of isolation crumbled under the weight of newfound connection. When they finally parted, Kira's skin glowed more brightly, the patterns beneath pulsing in rhythm with her quickened heartbeat. "Among my kind, this level of physiological response would indicate imminent death," she said with soft amazement. "But I feel more alive than I've ever been." Marcus smiled, brushing luminescent strands of hair from her face. "That's another thing people call caring, they call it love." The intimate moment shattered as a high-pitched whine cut through the air, the distinctive sound of Vrexian weapons powering up. A cold, mechanical voice echoed through the cave entrance. "Executor Kira, you are charged with desertion and biological contamination. Surrender the human specimen and report for decommissioning." Kira's expression transformed instantly from tender to tactical. They've found us. She moved to shield Marcus, her body tense and ready. And they won't take either of us alive. There's a secondary passage, Marcus whispered, pulling Kira deeper into the cave. Follow me. The Vrexian soldiers advanced methodically, their weapons casting eerie blue light across the limestone. Kira moved silently behind Marcus, her every sense attuned to the hunters, her former comrades. They navigated through increasingly narrow tunnels, squeezing through passages barely wide enough for human shoulders. Behind them, the mechanical clicks and whirs of Vrexian tech grew more distant. This opens into an underground river system, Marcus explained as they emerged into a larger chamber. Phosphorescent fungi provided just enough light to see by, casting everything in ghostly blue-green. But we're trapped if they find this route. Kira nodded grimly. They will, it's only a matter of time. She settled against a rock wall, suddenly looking exhausted. Marcus, there's something you need to know about me, about why they're hunting us so relentlessly. He sat beside her, taking her hand without hesitation, a gesture that still made her bioluminescent patterns flicker with wonder. I wasn't completely truthful about what I am, she began. I'm not just an executor, I'm a prototype, the first of the NTX-7 series. My toxin isn't just a weapon, it's adaptive, evolving constantly to overcome any potential resistance. That's why they're so determined to find you, Marcus realized, but it doesn't explain why I'm immune. Kira's fingers tightened around his. The Empire's geneticists engineered us with a safeguard, a biological lock, if you will. Our toxins can be neutralized, but only by a specific genetic key. It was theoretical, something to ensure they maintained control over their living weapons. Understanding dawned on Marcus's face, and somehow I have this key. It's impossible yet undeniable. Her free hand touched her lips, remembering their kiss. By all Vrexian science, you shouldn't exist, especially not here on an uncharted frontier world. A bitter laugh escaped her. Do you know what they called us? The untouchables, efficient weapons precisely because we were denied what all sentient beings crave, connection. Her voice dropped to a whisper. We were told it was our sacrifice for the glory of the Empire. Marcus processed her words, his scientific mind racing. If I'm somehow this key, that makes me valuable to them too. They won't just want to eliminate me, they'll want to study me. Worse, Kira's expression darkened. If the genetic key exists naturally in humans, it threatens their entire executor program. They'll quarantine this entire planet or destroy it. She met his eyes directly. That's why we can't be captured, not just for ourselves, but for your world. The weight of her revelation settled between them. Marcus ran a hand through his disheveled hair, mind racing through possibilities, each more desperate than the last. Could we negotiate? Surely there's someone in your empire who would see reason. Kira's laugh was hollow. The Empire doesn't negotiate with weapons or keys. A distant splash echoed through the cavern. Vrexian scouts had found the underground river. Time was running out. There's something else you should know. Kira's voice grew hesitant, vulnerable in a way he'd never heard before. She placed his hand against her chest, where her dual hearts beat in complex rhythm. Since you touched me, I've been changing. Changing how? My toxin levels are fluctuating. I can feel it, sometimes more potent, sometimes nearly dormant. She looked at her hands with wonder and fear. I think I'm developing control over it. Marcus stared at her, the implications staggering. That would mean. It means the Empire's control was never absolute. The genetic bond creates a pathway for adaptation. Her eyes glistened in the phosphorescent light. You didn't just survive my touch, Marcus. You're helping me transform. The splashing sounds grew closer. Kira rose to her feet, pulling Marcus up beside her. There's only one way out of this. We have to use what they fear against them. How? She pressed her forehead against his, a gesture of intimacy that would have been unthinkable days ago. I need you to trust me, completely. Their lips met again, not tentative this time but desperate, passionate. Marcus felt a strange, tingling sensation where their skin connected, as if electricity flowed between them. Kira's luminescence brightened, patterns pulsing in rapid, complex sequences he'd never seen before. When they parted, her violet eyes had changed, glowing with inner fire. The vertical pupils expanded. I feel it, she whispered. The connection between us is rewriting my biology. The toxin is responding to your genetic signature, creating a harmonic balance. Marcus touched her face, feeling the subtle vibration beneath her skin. What does this mean for us? It means we have a chance. She caught his hand, kissing his palm with fierce tenderness. But I need you to let me face them first, alone. That's suicide, Marcus protested. No, Kira's expression held certainty. It's evolution. The splashing grew louder. Vrexian hunters would be upon them within minutes. Kira drew Marcus into a final embrace, holding him as if memorizing the feel of him. "Whatever happens," she whispered against his ear, "know that you've given me more than survival. You've shown me what it means to live." She pulled back, eyes bright with emotion and determination. "Now hide, don't come out until I call for you." Before he could protest further, she pressed a final kiss to his lips and stepped away, moving toward the tunnel entrance where Vrexian lights now cast long shadows. "You found what you seek," she called out, her voice echoing through the cavern. "I am Kira NTX-7 prototype, and I am ready to return home." As the Vrexian soldiers emerged from the tunnel, weapons trained on her glowing form, Marcus retreated into the shadows, watching, waiting, and trusting in a connection that defied the very laws of an empire built on isolation. Commander Thex regarded Kira with cold calculation, his silver eyes narrowed in suspicion. 3 elite Vrexian hunters flanked him, weapons trained on her glowing form. "Executor NTX-7, your behavior is unprecedented." His voice carried the metallic undertone of all high-ranking Vrexians. "Where is the human specimen?" Kira stood tall, her luminescence pulsating with newfound strength. "Gone beyond your reach." "Impossible, our sensors would have detected escape." Thex gestured, and one of the hunters stepped forward with a restraint collar designed specifically to suppress untouchable toxins. "You will be returned to the Genesis facility for examination and repurposing." "I think not," Kira's voice remained steady. "I am no longer what you created." Thex laughed, a harsh, artificial sound. "You are property of the Vrexian Empire. Your thoughts on the matter are irrelevant." The hunter approached cautiously, collar extended. Kira remained perfectly still, meeting Thex's gaze with unflinching resolve. "Contact is unadvised, Commander," the hunter warned. "Her toxicity readings are fluctuating abnormally." "Restrain her," Thex ordered impatiently. "The human's interference has clearly damaged her neurological functions." The hunter lunged forward, attempting to snap the collar around Kira's neck. In one fluid motion, she caught his wrist, direct skin contact that should have killed him instantly. Nothing happened. Shock registered on the hunter's face as Kira maintained her grip. "Impossible," he gasped. "No," Kira replied calmly, "evolution." With practiced precision, she disarmed him and pushed him back toward his stunned comrades. Her skin glowed brighter, patterns shifting into configurations never before seen in Vrexian biology. "What have you done?" Thex demanded, weapon raised. "I've discovered the truth you tried to hide from us." Kira's voice echoed through the cavern. "We were never meant to be isolated. The toxin was never absolute. It was controlled by you to keep us dependent, alone." Thex's expression darkened. "The human must be eliminated. This contamination cannot spread." "His name is Marcus," Kira said, her voice hardening, "and he showed me that touch doesn't have to mean death." "Sentimentality from an untouchable," Thex sneered. "You've become truly defective." "Not defective, free," Kira stepped forward confidently. "And I'm offering the same freedom to my brothers and sisters in the Executor program." Thex raised his weapon, but hesitated when Kira continued advancing. "The Empire will never allow this aberration to exist." "The Empire doesn't understand what they've actually created," Kira replied. "We aren't just weapons, we're evolving beings. The toxin isn't fixed, it's responsive, and now I can control it." To demonstrate, she extended her hand toward one of the hunters. The patterns beneath her skin shifted, glowing areas dimming while others brightened. "Scan me," she commanded. The hunter reluctantly activated his wrist device. "Toxin levels neutralized," he reported, disbelief evident in his voice. "And now," Kira concentrated, and the patterns shifted again. The scanner in the hunter's hand shrieked a warning. "Toxicity at lethal levels," he confirmed, backing away. Thex's silver eyes widened slightly, the Vrexian equivalent of shock. "This changes nothing. You are still Imperial property." "No living being is property," came Marcus's voice as he emerged from the shadows. "Not on Earth and not in your empire." Kira turned to him, alarm flashing across her features. "Marcus." "I heard everything," he said, moving to stand beside her. "And I'm done hiding." Thex studied Marcus with clinical interest. "So this is the anomaly, unremarkable physically, yet somehow immune." He addressed his hunters without taking his eyes off the human. "Secure them both. The Genesis facility will be most interested in dissection." "Commander Thex," Kira interrupted, her voice carrying a new authority. "Before you attempt that, there's something you should know about Earth and its people." "I require no information about this primitive world." "That's unfortunate," Kira replied. Because what I've discovered threatens the very foundation of the Empire's bioweapon program. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Thex's features. Explain. Marcus isn't unique. My preliminary analysis suggests approximately 30% of humans carry the genetic marker that neutralizes our toxin. The lie flowed smoothly from Kira's lips. If word spreads that the feared untouchables can be touched, what happens to the Empire's most effective enforcers? The implications hung in the air. The Vrexian Empire maintained control across 17 systems largely through fear of their executor program. If that fear disappeared. You're bluffing, Thex accused, but doubt had crept into his voice. Test it yourself, Kira challenged. Bring more humans here, see how many survive contact. Marcus stood perfectly still, sensing Kira's strategy. The Empire wouldn't risk exposure if they believed their most powerful weapons could be neutralized. Thex conferred quietly with his hunters, their melodic language flowing too rapidly for Marcus to follow. Finally, he turned back to Kira. What do you propose? A simple arrangement, Kira replied. Earth remains unlisted in Imperial records. Marcus and I are registered as cooperative research subjects rather than fugitives. I transmit regular research updates on our biological compatibility. And in exchange, Thex's voice dripped with suspicion. The Empire gains revolutionary insights into executor biology without the embarrassment of admitting their perfect weapons have a critical vulnerability. Kira's expression remained neutral, though Marcus could sense the tension vibrating through her. Everyone maintains their reputation. Long minutes passed as Thex considered. Finally, he lowered his weapon. The Genesis director will require proof of ongoing research value. She'll have it, Kira promised. Our bond continues to evolve in ways your scientists never anticipated. To demonstrate, she took Marcus's hand. Her luminescence responded instantly, patterns synchronizing with his pulse, a visual representation of their connection that even the coldly pragmatic Thex couldn't ignore. Very well, he conceded reluctantly. But understand this, NTX-7, at the first sign of deception, this entire region will be sterilized. With that final threat, Thex signaled his hunters. They retreated through the tunnel, their lights fading until darkness reclaimed the cavern. Marcus released the breath he'd been holding. Will they honor the agreement? For now, Kira turned to him, violet eyes gleaming in the phosphorescent light. The Empire values data above all else. Our biological bond is too intriguing to destroy without study. And was that true about other humans being immune? Kira's lips curved into a sly smile. No, but they can't risk testing it publicly. Marcus pulled her close, still marveling at the freedom to touch her without consequence. So what happens now? Now, Kira whispered, resting her forehead against his, we build something the Empire never planned for. And what's that? Her luminescence brightened, casting their shadows against the ancient cave walls, two completely different beings joined as one. A life where touch means connection, not death, where weapons become people, where the untouchable learns to love. Marcus kissed her then, a promise sealed against all odds. In the darkness of Earth's hidden places, far from the Empire that had created her, Kira's skin glowed with the light of transformation. The patterns that had once warned of death now pulsed with life, with possibility, with futures never before imagined. And somewhere in the vast complexity of their genetic bond, a new truth emerged. Sometimes the most revolutionary act isn't destruction but creation. Sometimes the deadliest weapon isn't toxin but touch. And sometimes, against all logic of biology and empire, the most powerful force in the universe is simply the courage to reach out and connect. For the untouchable assassin and the human who survived her touch, it was enough. It was everything.